Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm Shreya Dhondial. You're watching the Urban Debate here on Mirror Now. It's getting worse for Air India. A day after it emerged that the chief pilot of an Air India flight was doped, possibly on marijuana, more shocking details are now emerging. The crew of AI-2379 that was flying from Phuket to Delhi has told the airline in its report and the AAIB that the pilot in command was out of control. They say he was unable to walk and had to be helped to his seat. The co-pilot then took charge and landed the aircraft after it plunged some 300 feet. This is, ladies and gentlemen, pretty much in keeping with what passengers on board the flight have been saying, that the pilot showed up disheveled for the flight and was unsteady on his feet.
हमारे साथ जो आगे बैठे हुए थे ना, वो उन्होंने पहले ही शुरू में जैसे वो पायलट घुसा तभी उन्होंने बोला कि ये सीधा ही नहीं चल पा रहा है, शर्ट भी टक्ड इन नहीं है। ऐसा हम लोग तो पायलट्स का मतलब समझते हैं कि एकदम बहुत टिप टॉप आएंगे और बहुत अच्छे से वेल बिहेव्ड होंगे, तो वो तो जब ही समझ में आ गया था। फिर हमको भी बाद में लगा, जब वो बाद में निकल के बाहर आया था, गुस्से में ही थोड़ा सा आया, तब लगा तो सही कि वो ही इज़ नॉट इन अ गुड कंडीशन। तो मेरे को सबसे ज़्यादा चिंता हुई बच्चों की। ये हमारे पास में जो बैठा हुआ था, मेरा दोहता बैठा हुआ था, मैंने ज़ोर से उसको पकड़ के बेल्ट लगाई, उसमें वो हैंडल मेरे यहाँ पे घुस के रिब्स में दो में थोड़े चोट आई है। और मेरे हस्बैंड तो एकदम हवा में ही चले गए वहाँ उसमें। तो हम जोर जोर से मैं चिल्ला रही थी उनका नाम, तो फिर उनको एकदम से होश आया, उठ के सीट पे बैठे। आप इतनी बड़ी कंपनी चला रहे हैं तो उसका थोड़ा आप अपने ध्यान रखो लोगों का। हम इतना ट्रस्ट करके आप बैठ जाते हैं। हम 17-17 घंटे की फ्लाइट्स में बैठते हैं, उतरने के बाद भी केयर नहीं थी वहाँ, इतना हल्ला मचाना पड़ा, पानी पूछने के लिए कोई नहीं, एम्बुलेंस में अंदर चढ़ने के लिए कोई नहीं। इट वाज सो बैड।
Now, ladies and gentlemen, making matters worse was the pilot's behavior. After 24 people on the flight were actually injured, that lady you heard was one of them. The pilot was seen requesting passengers not to make videos and post them on social media in the name of humanity. He said what happened was not his fault. A passenger filmed him and the video is now viral. There was a passenger who was on board and this is what he said.
Looking at the pilot, the way he was dressed, initially when he was going into the cockpit, we saw it before and even after he came out after the incident, it just felt the demeanor wasn't of a dignified pilot. We still decided to take the flight because we trusted the processes, and as the captain gentleman said that all of the pilots are tested before they take the flight, so that's why we trusted them to have been tested, and we ignored the demeanor. They spoke to the passengers through the cockpit. There was zero empathy, there was zero asking about how people are doing, or zero explanation about what had happened, using terms like a boss, don't take any photos or videos, don't post it on social media, baat ka batangad ban jata hai, and it'll all go and escalate, and you will suffer and we'll suffer. And it just felt it wasn't a dignified pilot level communication that normally we grew up knowing that pilots and captains and senior positions in aviation and airlines, they are respectful, they are very dignified positions.
Question is, how could a reportedly stoned commander be allowed to pilot a plane carrying 145 people on board? If passengers and crew and perhaps the co-pilot were also aware of his unsteady behavior, why was it not immediately reported? Also, how did the pilot, the commander, think he could get away with this behavior? Now, airlines flying out of places like Phuket and Amsterdam do face a challenge because some psychoactive substances are legal and freely available for medical use. But the problem for India is that our dope rules for pilots are way too lax. Now, what exactly does a standard aviation dope test in India look for? Well, the testing is not limited to cannabis. Under India's aviation drug testing framework, pilots and other flight crew can be screened for multiple categories of psychoactive substances, including cannabis, including marijuana, including cocaine. So when a pilot undergoes a dope test, these are amongst the substances the screening is designed to detect. The DGCA, which is the regulator, has now been asked by the government to review this existing framework for dope testing of pilots by the government. The regulator has also been asked to study dope testing protocols that are followed in other countries. Now, currently, rules do provide for strict action, but the penalty escalates only with repeated violations. For example, if this is a first positive test, the pilot is referred for counseling or rehabilitation and then can fly after 6 months. A second positive can mean a 3-year suspension of license, and a third positive can lead to cancellation of the license. Refusing a test also has consequences. The pilot is taken off duty, while a repeat refusal can attract a 3-year suspension. So the question is, are these safeguards tough enough when the person at the controls is responsible for the lives of hundreds of people? Ladies and gentlemen, there is a difference between an alcohol test and a drug test. Testing pilots for drugs are far more complicated than testing them for alcohol. A breath analyzer test that happens before and after every flight can quickly indicate alcohol consumption and intoxication. Drug testing is different. Traces of psychoactive substances can remain in the body for much longer, for as long as 3 months, which means a positive result does not automatically establish that a person was stoned or impaired while flying. There's another complication. Legitimate medicines can sometimes trigger an initial positive. Codeine, for instance, it can show up as an opiate. That is why DGCA rules require a confirmatory test after a non-negative preliminary result with medical review to determine whether there is a legitimate explanation. And to catch such cases, scheduled airlines and air navigation services are required to randomly test at least 10% of their flight crew and air traffic controllers every year. Question is, should this random testing include 25% pilots and air traffic controllers instead of just 10? Well, the pilot, in his defense, has now told the AAIB, that is investigating the incident, that he was having some sleep issues and had taken medication for the same. He slept on the flight for 35 minutes or so with the first officer flying the plane. He says when he got up is when the triple hydraulic failure happened and the plane plunged some 300 feet. This is when he says he fell. This is his version. His crew, of course, has reported what happened very differently. Meanwhile, the opposition is slamming the government, calling this a very serious matter. Listen in.
एयरपोर्ट बना रहे हो, पानी भर गया उसमें, एक्सप्रेसवे बना रहे हो, गड्ढे हो रहे हैं आपके पास, आप क्या कर रहे हो? हवाई जहाज उड़ा रहे हैं और प्रदेश चलाने वाले में हमारे कुछ समानता दिखाई दे रही है। भाई आज खबर क्या मिली है कि प्लेन उड़ाने में जो रिपोर्ट आई है क्या सुनने को मिल रहा है, और हमें लगता है प्रदेश चलाने वाले में और प्लेन चलाने में कुछ समानता दिखाई दे रही है।
That the pilot in Indian Airlines has tested positive with this type of test, and the demand that civil aviation minister Ram Naidu must intervene, and strict action against those people who are involved should be done. No excuse should be given to Indian Airlines.
Do you think the rule should be revised as far as drug testing of pilots is concerned?
It's a very serious thing, and we should not. There should be no relaxation. It should be strict. Rules should be followed, and because
ये बहुत ही गंभीर विषय है जहाँ पे लोगों की जान का सवाल हो, जहाँ पे इतनी बड़ी लापरवाही सामने आए, तो समाजवादी पार्टी समझती कि ऐसे पायलट पे प्रतिबंध भी लगना चाहिए और सख्त कार्रवाई भी होनी चाहिए।
Criminal breach of trust by Air India. I mean, their processes and procedures are so weak that a pilot who was high on marijuana was allowed to commander a flight, and they must be booked for endangering the lives, criminally endangering the lives of so many passengers, and the government must levy exemplary punishment on all those involved in the management of Air India and the pilot itself.
My guest this evening, J.S. Rawat, former Joint DG, DGCA, K.V.J. Rao, whistleblower against Air India, also the General Secretary of the All India Cabin Crew Association, Meenu Wadia is founder, President, Federation of Pilots and a former Air India pilot as well, and Captain Karve, Sanjay Karve is an aviation expert joining us on the broadcast. So we have three pilots on this broadcast this evening. Captain Karve, we have the version of the passengers, we have the version of the crew, and now we have the version of the pilot as well, who's saying he was having sleep issues. He couldn't sleep in Phuket, which is why he was taking sleep medication, which is probably why he tested positive in this dope test. Is that enough to give him a clean sheet?
Now, let's take all the three cases independently. Let's start with the pilot. Air India does not give a layover at Phuket. That means he reported his flight took off from Delhi at 0130 in the morning. So obviously he would have reported for duty for his briefing and otherwise somewhere around midnight, 11:30 to 12 o'clock. Then he's been in the cockpit till his landing at Phuket, and the Phuket departure was 8:30 their local time. He has only 1 hour's layover in Phuket. So I agree with his contention that he was sleep deprived. But the question now comes up, the routine or the schedule is already published. As a crew or as a pilot, I know what my schedule is. So I need to plan my sleep accordingly. And thereafter, if he's taken a medication to avoid sleep, all the more reason he should have got up and said, listen, I'm not in a condition to fly. Now, what happens to the passengers or what the airline, that is the airline's problem, not his problem. He's putting everyone's life at risk. And no one is going to penalize him if he gets up and says, look, I think I'm sleep deprived. I'm unable to sleep. And I need a break.
Captain Karve, but he did say that. I'm just going to put out the sequence of events. He comes to the flight. This is when passengers see him disheveled and they see him not in control. He comes to the flight and he tells the co-pilot that you take charge because I need to take 30 to 35 minutes of rest. And this is controlled rest, I believe. This is completely allowed under the law. So he did that. My point is, look at the situation we have at hand. You have a sleep-deprived pilot who takes some sort of medication. Passengers and crew are reporting he is not in control. And then this flight dips 300 feet. And it is a young pilot who is at, who is at the helm of affairs. I'm just wondering why this pilot felt he could get away with the behavior that he has displayed.
No, the pilot's behavior was totally unacceptable. Instead of telling the co-pilot, he should have told the operations team at Phuket, hey, look, I have a problem. I don't think I have had adequate rest. You can't start off the flight saying I require 30 to 40 minutes of controlled rest. And let us get one thing clear for the general viewers. He is being sleep deprived or he is being under the influence of some sort of medication cannot be connected to the aircraft losing 300 feet of height. Any aircraft which is passing through turbulence or close to a CB cloud or through a CAT will definitely have problems with his autopilot. The autopilot will disengage. If the aircraft is getting negative G, you will find the fluid level rising up and down, which will give a false indication. And the aircraft going nose down, probably the pilot flying, we really don't know who was flying. The pilot flying has lowered the nose because apparently there was a stall warning. Now, if you get a stall warning in a fixed-wing aircraft, the first thing a crew would like to do is lower the nose to build up speed. But the pilot's behavior, as far as I'm concerned, is unacceptable. The pilot in command, I'm not saying the pilot in command.
All the more, I would say, Meenu Wadia, all the more you needed the pilot to be in his senses. What is being reported is that there was a triple hydraulic failure. Now, that is something very, very serious. That is also something very, very rare. So here, on one hand, you have a triple hydraulic failure or some technical error, which and the investigating agencies will find out. And here you have a pilot who's not in control.
He was not in the cockpit or he was not in his seat.
Compartmentalize two separate topics. The pilot not being fit to fly, or pilot having consumed whatever his marijuana or whatever drugs is a separate issue, and the aircraft losing 300 feet, etc., is a totally separate issue. So let me not combine the two totally. Exactly what the earlier pilot told you, the pilot has to be 100% in control of the flight. And it is the duty, and this has always been the case, it's nothing new. Right from the beginning, it has always been the case. People may come for the flight, but if even at the last moment, a pilot is not fit to fly for any reason, maybe he might fall ill or maybe he may have fallen down or for whatever reason, if he considers himself not fit to fly, it is his duty to report it and not undertake the flight. Then it is up to the airline how to arrange for another pilot or what they need to do, etc. But it is the responsibility and the duty of the pilot not to take the flight when he is not fully in control. That's one issue. Let's take the second issue as far as the emergency is concerned. We still don't know because we are getting conflicting reports constantly from various channels that there was turbulence, there was clear air turbulence.
nowhere is Air India mentioning turbulence now. They did mention it in their initial statement, sir. They are not mentioning turbulence now. So there was no turbulence. I think that is something that is very clear. Mr. Wadia, you say that the two things are not related. That the pilot being high, whether it was on medication, whether it was on marijuana, the pilot being high and the plane dipping 300 feet is not the same thing. I mean, if a plane is going through a technical snag, a hydraulic failure that is endangering the life of 145 people, what do you have a commander for? The commander of the flight is the leader of that flight. He's in charge of that flight. If he is not in his senses, even to stabilize a plane during a tough situation like this, then what is he there for? So the two are related.
No, 1 second. They are not related. Now, what you yourself said, it's 145 people. Whether there were 145 people or 245 people or even 4 people on the flight, the responsibility is equally important, and equally the pilot is responsible for taking the flight safely. So whether it's the number of people on board is of no relevance whatsoever to start with. Then what is the emergency? Why can't the DGCA or the airline tell us exactly what went wrong? If there was a failure of the autopilot, or if there was a failure of the hydraulic system, what is the harm in disclosing that to the public and disclosing it in the media? Why is it that we are still presuming that whether there was a clear air turbulence or total turbulence or whatever went wrong? This is a simple thing where the DGCA comes into the picture. And that is why I have continuously faulted the DGCA for not being professional right from the beginning on various grounds. And I would squarely blame the DGCA for preventing accident from happening in this country.
But sir, in this case, if a pilot is doped, reportedly, how is it the DGCA's fault?
It may not be in this case. If it's doped, the DGCA has to do the normal tests. I'm not talking of this case itself. Right from the last 50 years, if you see, the Federation of Indian Pilots have taken up the issue of the DGCA revamping with the Prime Minister and the government. I have said this for the last 40 years. And from the last 40 years, we've been writing various letters to the DGCA and to the Airport Authority that the whole office of the DGCA needs to be totally revamped, and you must have professionals running an independent safety board. That is the only way you will prevent accidents or reduce the accidents from happening.
Mr. Wadia, while I take your point, and I'll take that question to Mr. Rawat, who's a former joint director, a former joint DG of the DGCA, my point is, you want professional pilots to run the DGCA. But first, you need to get pilots to behave professionally and fly their flights. Right?
I didn't say professional pilots, professionals. It can be engineer, it can be anyone, ATC people, professionals actually, who are qualified in accident analysis.
Mr. Rawat, please step in here.
All the professionals who are the DGCA, they are the very qualified and well properly selected through the UPSC. So that point that they are no professional in the DGCA, that is not correct.
But sir, they are doing a terrible job. The DGCA is doing a terrible job and comes for all-around criticism, not just from pilots, but from the Janta as well.
It is the same thing what you are saying right now, that he was a drunk pilot and then he has not done the things properly. So there is a thing that a pilot should be sane and then he should be able to do his job properly. If there may be qualified person anywhere, the pilot is qualified, but he is not able to do his job properly in the flight. So you can't blame any person. Yes, there may be some persons in the DGCA who may not be doing the job properly, because DGCA is also part of the ecosystem of India. It's not a separate thing which is away from the country, and it is we have got same behavior, same culture, everything in the DGCA which is prevailing in the country. So you can't blame it is not DGCA separate from this thing, and it should be very sane and all those kind of things. We have got so many persons in Air India. Now I come back to the investigation. Now the incident happened on 4. Now we are today's 12th. Now every day we are getting the information, peace and meals.
Correct.
Peace meals. Then who is doing the investigation? I heard that DGCA had done the investigation, and now, as you have also mentioned, that Air India is coming out with this information that there was no turbulence. Why Air India should come with the information right now? Because the investigation should be done by either DGCA or by the AIB. Now I heard that it is going to be taken over by the AIB. So whoever is doing the investigation so far, he has to come out with the facts, come to the public, because investigation is for the public only.
No, but
not
is
for
it
keeping-
not too soon?
No, no,
Art,
no,
in
not-
8 days, can an investigation like this be completed conclusively? Because the one thing you don't want to do is villainize someone who may not be at fault. In this case, by the looks of it, the pilot himself is admitting he had sleep issues and had taken medication.
No,
But
when
doesn't
this
the
statement-
investigation take a little longer?
When this statement has come today, I am hearing first time that he has come out. Till yesterday, I have not heard that he has admitted this kind of thing.
No, he has spoken
Why-
to the
why-
AIB now. The AIB is investigating. They've obviously had a report from the crew. They now have a report from the pilot as well.
That's what I'm telling you. It has taken such a long time to come to the facts, and facts are coming to gradually to the public, which is creating doubt in the mind of people. What is happening? In this case, if the DGCA was doing the investigation, it means the DGCA has not even done the proper investigation and taken the facts from the pilot. Now AIB has taken the facts, information from the pilot, and the state is probably during his investigation that he was not having the proper sleep, and there was a sleep issue with him. So the things are not moving in properly, because I also admit that DGCA is not doing the job. If the investigation was done so far by the DGCA, it was not done properly. It was the pieces. And the information was coming not from the DGCA, it was coming from the Air India sources.
Well, that is the unfortunate part. There's nothing on record. Everything is on sources. So we are all left to speculate, Mr. KVJ Rao. Even what the crew has told the AIB in its report, it's all via sources. But here's my question to you. The crew has reportedly told the AIB that he was out. He was not someone who was in control when he entered the flight. This is something, by the way, the passengers have also said, that he was disheveled. He didn't look like someone who was in control. The crew is saying the same thing. They're saying we had to help him on his feet after the plane falls 300 feet, etc. My point is, was it not even the crew's duty to report to someone that the captain is looking out of sorts? Because this is not just endangering the lives of passengers, it is also endangering their lives.
I totally agree with you, but the problem is if you report violations to the DGCA, you lose your job. This is plain and simple as that. And I am the victim of that. One of the charge sheets against me was that I wrote a letter to DGCA exposing the violations. Now, the violations were documented by Air India itself. They were not my fabrication. It was sent to the DGCA. Under RTI, we asked DGCA, did you get it? DGCA says we didn't get it. Air India says we gave it to DGCA. The DGCA works with the horse's blinkers. They only like to see what they want to see. The rest is pushed under the carpet. Now, Mr. Rawat claims that everybody is selected through UPSC. UPSC doesn't select you to be a pilot. A pilot doesn't come through the UPSC. Now, that gentleman is trained in other fields. And then he comes here. Then he's briefed by the people in DGCA. So the person who's briefing him, if he goes 1% out of line, the whole investigation will go out of line. So at the end of the day, and like Mr. Rawat saying, the DGCA people come from the society itself. I'm sorry. In the DGCA, you cannot take that claim saying that wo bhi chor hai, to main bhi chor banunga. It doesn't work that way. You have been given a responsibility to take care of, be the regulator of the aviation industry. And you are saying that abhi udhar bhi chor hai, to hum bhi thoda chori kar lete, kya farak padta hai? This is exactly where it has gone wrong. They have to be above board. The DGCA officers.
No, I want to know, Mr. Rawat, and Mr. Badia, if you want to come in as well. I want to know. Now we are finding out after this, and I think this is the biggest scandal to hit Indian aviation in recent times. It's only after the scandal hits that we are getting to know that our dope rules are actually very lax. Only 10% of our pilots every year are randomly tested for dope. For the first time, if someone is tested for dope, first time offender, you are sent to rehabilitation, and after 6 months you can fly again. There are some countries in the Gulf, Mr. Rawat, who will take away the pilot's license for doping. So why is the DGCA sleeping on these lax rules? Why do we have to wake up only after an accident has happened?
It is not the thing that DGC has made the rule in isolation, because they are in line with the other procedures published by the other countries also. It is not that DGC is now that's there for the drug. There is a process for the rehabilitation. It is not initiated by the DGC India. It is medical term where the person becomes a drug addict. He has to be rehabilitated because we can't know, because when we for the example for the breathalyzer test, we immediately come to know that the person has taken the drink. So because the blood level is there, so he is immediately off-rostered the thing. But for the pilot to carry out those things, the systems are not developed by the airline so far, because as per the DGC CR, the system was required to be developed by the airline.
So they have not. नहीं, अच्छा एक बात बताइए रावत जी, एक बात बताइए मतलब ये 10% रैंडम टेस्टिंग होती है, 25% रैंडम टेस्टिंग नहीं हो सकती क्या पायलट्स के लिए?
हो सकती है.
हाँ, so that would be a deterrent, because if one pilot is doping, reportedly doping,
1 minute,
maybe more are too. We simply don't know.
It is not done that it has come to somebody's dream that it should be 10%, 25%. It is based on some study. This is kind of the people which are taking the drugs in every other countries also. So all these things are data is taken from the studies carried out by various agencies. So on the basis of that, now you can question today itself, yes, because in India that it should be whatever the 10% is, it is less, it should be increased. Now,
I am not the only one questioning it. The Ministry of Aviation is questioning it as well and has told today DGCA, please in rules ko tighten kariye. Otherwise, everyone is taking your rules for a ride. They are so lax. Mr. Rao, you want to come in? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, but see, like Mr. Rawat says, the other aviation regulators are doing it. Are we here to do a cut, copy, paste job, or are we to look at our situation to make rules? Now, the medical, everybody could be sent once in 3 months for a medical, because if he's taking drugs, it is going to be there in the system for at least 3 months. So every 3 months, if you conduct a test, you can do it. You want to rehabilitate that pilot, no problems. But where is the guarantee that it will not reoccur? Number one. Number two, if I remember right, when Mr. Gajpati Raju was the minister, they wanted to file an FIR on the pilots when they were found under the influence of alcohol. Tell me how many pilots there is an FIR filed. There is no FIR filed. So you see, you're endangering somebody's life. It is a criminal offense. The DGCA can't take it this lightly.
Mr. Rao, you are not well informed. If the pilot is found positive after the flight, then a FIR is filed against him. It's not that but if it is found before operating the flight, then action is taken as per the CR only.
Let us see the statistics, because I have not seen. I am daily in touch.
But the fact is that a dope test is not conducted on pilots before a flight,
Mr. Rao, you are talking about this thing. You asked for the statistics on the DGCA as you have mentioned in the past also. I'm not the part of DGCA now. I can't say you that whatever the data of the DGCA. You can ask tomorrow DGCA. You ask for the ministry or anybody.
Mr. Rao, can I ask you this? Mr. Rao, can I ask you this? You speak to a lot of crew members, right? And a lot of things don't come to light. But is it their experience that you have increasingly pilots showing up either drunk or on dope?
Ma'am, I'll be speculating again, but there are many people who, if you conduct a test, will get caught because it's not being done properly. And with due respect to Mr. Rawat, you see, I have not seen one FIR filed against any pilot.
No. Don't give me respect. Don't give the respect to the country and country's constitution.
No. Exactly, sir. I am going to the country's constitution.
By using this word, the full respect to me, I don't demand any respect from you or anyone else.
Sir,
I was part of the DGCA. I have done the job my DGCA, and during my period,
from where we are looking as passengers, Indian aviation right now seems to be a mess and its regulator incompetent. Mr. Wadia? Mr. Rawat, give me a minute. Mr. Rawat, Mr. Wadia, you wanted to come in here. Please go ahead.
Yes, please. On this particular case, we do not have enough evidence, so I'm not pointing fingers at the DGCA in this particular case. But in 50 other cases, I'll point a finger directly at DGCA. And if I give you evidence, Mr. Rawat, you will be shocked yourself also. So if you remember the Chakri-Darji mid-air collision that took place in New Delhi with the Saudi and Kazakhstan aircraft.
Captain Wadia, 1 minute. I am a retired person. I need not shock right now because I am not part of the DGC anymore.
Okay, Mr. Rawat, we've made that
You
clear.
are
Please
part
let
of the
Mr. Wadia finish.
About the DGCA. Excuse me, I'm not talking about Mr. Rawat only, I'm talking about the DGCA. And there have been different directives.
Mr. Rawat, let Mr. Wadia speak.
No. Let me speak. Because he has personally asking me all these things, the DGCA. I am not part of the DGCA. I mentioned in my earlier the statement also that if the DGCA has carried out the investigation so far, it is not proper.
You may not be a part of DGCA.
If you still have the this thing for the evidences again, to throw it to the DGCA, throw it to the ministry.
Okay.
I'll give you evidence. Hold on.
Okay. ठीक है, Mr. Rawat. Let Mr. Wadia now come in and make his point.
No. I will not allow him to speak.
Mr. Rawat, a point has been made. You have countered that point, Mr. Rawat. एक मिनट रुक जाइए ना. आपकी this is your ex workplace. Questions will be asked of you only, na. You may be retired, but you served in the DGCA.
I am not doing anything for the DGCA today.
Okay. So you made your
questions.
अच्छा
ठीक है. Question from the DGCA today.
अरे भाई DGCA respond करे तब उनसे पूछे ना. They have also gone silent.
करो.
Anyway, Mr. Wadia, please complete your point.
My first point is exactly what Mr. Rawat himself made the point. They are not prepared to listen to professionals to start with. Okay, I was talking of the mid-air collision that took place in Chakri-Darji with Saudi and Kazakhstan airlines. We had forecasted that accident in writing, informed the DGCA and the government of India that this will happen if you don't do one or two things which we recommended to do. They did nothing about it. The crash took place, 500 odd people died, and DGCA had a normal inquiry, which was conducted by a High Court judge and a pilot from Air India also, and nothing of consequence came out of it. However, if the recommendation that I had made, even during that particular thing, for example, I'll give you an example. The transponder switch should be switched on. And the DGCA, took me 2 years to convince the DGCA. Mr. Kola was the DGCA at that time. It took me 2 years to convince it, and he eventually came out with a NOTAM. Whereas the jet airway pilots and examiners had asked me to give them a presentation. It took me 5 minutes because they were professionals there. It took me 5 minutes to convince them of my point of view, and it was done. Also, don't forget that we've been insisting that you must have professional accident analysis trained people in the DGCA and in the Independent Safety Board. They didn't have anyone in India at that time.
Okay.
However, I have arranged through United Nations, that is ICAO, to have a team of specialists to come to India to train our aviators, not only pilots. When I say aviators, it means air traffic controllers, engineers, a lot of people. And DGCA did not allow a single pilot to attend the course, not even one. Only the bureaucrats attended the course, which I had made arrangements from ICAO to come and give a briefing over here.
Okay.
That is how DGCA
Captain
functions.
Karve, now help me understand this. I think it has been established, and you can come in here, that as far as our dope tests are concerned, they are way too lax, which is why pilots take those tests very lightly. I'm not saying this, as I said, the Ministry of Aviation has said this and asked the DGCA to see if they can be tightened. My question to you is this. Is this particular pilot in line for a severe punishment, possibly his license being cancelled as well? Can he actually claim that I wasn't getting enough sleep, therefore I took prescribed medication, and therefore I came to the flight and said, ab main so jata hu 25 minutes, and that is where this 300 feet dip happens, this reported hydraulic failure happens, and the job he has been hired to do, he's not available for that job because he's taken some sleeping pills. Should his license be cancelled or not, sir?
Okay, Shreya, let's get things in a logical order. We talk of, or what we hear, that the pilot asked for a controlled rest. You don't start a flight with controlled rest.
Correct.
That is the first thing. It is en route somewhere. You can ask for a controlled rest. Yes, the DGCA or even the ICAO allows you. Most of our DGCA regulations are based on ICAO, EASA, or FAA regulations. Secondly, with so much of prominence being given to this particular case, I have no doubts that the pilot is going to lose his license. Whether it was his fault or not is a different issue. What we also need to figure out, did the pilot inform Air India or Air India operations that, look, I have a problem? Because if he has done so before he got into the cockpit at Phuket, then the blame equally lies with the operations team of the Air India. We can't just palm it off saying the pilot is alone to be blamed. If he's informed someone, okay, look, I have a problem. If you remember the incident where an Air India aircraft crashed, when he was asked, he wanted to divert to Bangalore, if I remember correctly, because of bad weather. And he spoke with Air India from the aircraft. And he was told, no, it will create logistic problems because we have to now rearrange accommodation for 160 passengers. There are 140 passengers waiting here. How do we take them back? Eventually, what did the BOI say? Oh, look, this pilot was on anti-diabetic medicines, which we did not know of. Is that the primary cause? That is not the primary cause. If you ask me, when a fully trained pilot or an engineer or an ATC officer makes a mistake, we need to figure out why has a fully trained individual made a mistake. It's very easy to say human error. He's been trained for it. These are the pressures. He's already made 4 approaches. He's asked his ops team, look, I have a problem. I want to divert to Bangalore. And now you turn around and tell him, no, make one more approach. Unfortunately, that approach goes wrong. During the investigation, they found that he was taking medications. That becomes the main thing, that pilot was taking medication. In this particular case, if he has informed Air India, whether at Phuket or his headquarters, that I have a sleep problem, I cannot fly, the organization is also equally responsible.
Let's see if they've done that, because we've not heard from Air India on that.
Yes.
Air India has not told us anything about it, which is why we all, I think, as far as this case is concerned, need some more official details.
Yes.
We can get many details from our sources, but we need official details because people of this country and paying passengers in this country deserve to know.
Yeah, let me complete. Also, the co-pilot, if he had noticed that the pilot is uncomfortable, he was within his rights not to fly. He could have got up and said, listen, my pilot in command is not in a state to fly. I would not like to operate. And I assure you, the regulator is not going to penalize him. I can't promise about the owner or the operator, but the regulator is definitely not going to penalize him for his refusal to fly for a valid reason. But as far as the license of this individual pilot is concerned, yes, it is anybody's guess. In all likelihood, he is going to lose his license.
Okay.
But I would also like to add one more thing. No reasonable or self-respecting pilot would get into the cockpit knowing that he's under the influence of liquor or is under the influence of drugs. That you can be rest assured of.
Okay, we'll leave it there for the moment. As I said, we need more details to come in on the story because so far nothing has been said officially. Mr. Rawat, Mr. Rao, Mr. Wadia, Captain Karve, thank you very much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, a quick break. News and updates continue right here. Do stay with us.